So I just made a video about the top 10 players in the NBA last season, and during that I talked about how Luka may never win an MVP trophy. And that got me thinking about how an American player hasn't won an MVP since 2018 when James Harden did it. And it may be a while before that happens again. So let's talk about which American player can win the award and when that could possibly happen. So first guy on my list is Cade Cunningham. I gotta talk about Cade as a Pistons fan. I think he should always be in contention to win the award just because he's the offensive engine of the Pistons. He puts up good stats. 25 points a game, 10 assists per game. So he's averaging a double-double, and he's proven to have good team success. The Pistons just won 60 games last season, and really being the main offensive guy, that gives him a little bit of a boost because a lot of the conversation around the MVP is if you took this guy off his team or if you swapped him with one of the other MVP players, would they be able to have that same success? I think with Cade, you can't take him off this Pistons team without them being one of the worst teams in the league. So he's definitely one of the most valuable players in the league in that aspect. But for Cade, unfortunately, he struggles with efficiency issues. Plus, he turns the ball over the most in the entire league. He's just not a guy that scores the ball with high efficiency, and that's really what you want out of an MVP player. And the turnovers are just some of the worst in the league. I watch 75-plus games of Pistons basketball. A lot of these turnovers are plays an MVP player shouldn't be making. Either bad reads on a pass or he's a sloppy ball handler sometimes. It just looks like he's giving the ball away for free without even really working too hard to prevent a turnover. And that's an issue that may really prevent him from ever winning an MVP. I know when Westbrook won his in 2017, he averaged a fair amount of turnovers. At the time, I wasn't watching basketball the same way I do now, so I don't really remember what his turnovers looked like. But Cade's look pretty terrible, man. I could see that getting in the way of an MVP campaign. You never know, he could clean it up. Another issue I could see happening is the Pistons falling off. They did win 60 games last year, but I haven't been too fond of the off-season moves. They could be around a 50-win team, but if he's not bringing them to a top 2 to 3 seed with 50-plus wins, I just don't see the voters ever going for that. Gotta talk about Jalen Brunson. He's not usually too high up in a lot of MVP discussions, but he just won Finals MVP, so I think he deserves to be talked about in this video. The Knicks are a successful team, so that checks off the team success box, and it really helps to come off of a finals win. Every time a player goes ahead and wins a championship, if they're the number one guy on the team, the MVP campaign the next season just gets so much easier. Brunson's big flaw is that he doesn't have great numbers outside of scoring. I mean, he's a lethal scorer and super clutch, but he's not putting up crazy stats outside of that. Anthony Edwards, he's always going to get great scoring numbers, averaging around 30 points a game with really good efficiency, man. That three ball of his is insane. He can attack the rim and lead the league in three-pointers made like he did a couple years ago. That's something you really want from an MVP, is to have an unstoppable scoring presence. I could also see him taking a playmaking leap and maybe bumping his assist average up to 7 a game. So averaging 30 and 7 on great efficiency. I mean, that's what Shea does, and he just won 2 straight MVPs. I could totally see Edwards doing it. However, I don't think the Wolves will ever have a good enough record in that Western Conference to get him the award. He's always had them hovering around 50 wins, but that's only been good for like the 6th seed the past couple seasons. The Wolves did make it up to the 3 spot a couple years ago, and that wasn't even good enough for him to be All-NBA first team. So, yeah, we would need a playmaking leap to happen and the Wolves to probably be a top 3 seed. Jayson Tatum, he's always in these conversations because the Celtics are a top seed. Obviously not last season because he tore his Achilles, but yeah, for a lot of the past few seasons, he's been an All-NBA first-team player. You know, I think he's a guy that you kind of have to talk about, but not a lot of people are serious about him actually being an MVP because he just doesn't put up the eye-popping numbers. You know, he's a pretty decent scorer. He's had a 30-point-per-game season, but most of the time he's around 26 to 27 points a game on not great efficiency for a wing player. He is a fantastic defender, though, and he's a superstar glue guy. too. Pulls down a lot of rebounds. He's the point guard of the Celtics offense, so that really helps. But that efficiency doesn't do him a lot of favors. And a lot of people kind of hate the way he plays. Being a 6'8", 6'9", really athletic wing, and he takes a bunch of like sidestep, step back threes that really tank his efficiency and even contribute to losing games. It's clear that the people voting on the award give him credit for taking the Celtics to good records, but not enough credit to actually go ahead and win the award over guys like Jokic, Giannis, or Shea. Gotta bring up LeBron, Steph, and KD. You know, they're kind of the staples of American basketball right now. They just led the U.S. to an Olympic victory in 2024. And they've all won MVPs in the past. I don't think it can happen. I don't think there's a world where one of their teams win a ton of games. I just don't think their stats are going to be good enough. They're not going to be playing the best defense. And most likely they're not even going to hit the games threshold. Because that's a really big factor that I haven't even brought up. You have to play 65 games to even be considered for the MVP. And at that age, these guys are more interested in being healthy enough to play in the postseason instead of playing the 65 games required to win awards. They deserve to be talked about in this video because they're American players that are really good. I just don't think it'll happen. Got to bring up some of the really young guys. Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Darren Peterson. It may be a little early to call Darren Peterson a future MVP, but watching him in college and some of these summer league games, I don't know, he just looks like it. Scoring comes so easy to him. He really reminds me a ton of Shea, the way he just gets to the rim, gets to his spots with such ease. And I think if you're looking at a projection for Darren Peterson, he looks like he could be Shea just with a better three-point jump shot. And Shea's a two-time MVP, so why not Darren Peterson? Now, that's a really early take, so don't put too much stock into that. Dylan Harper, it'll be tough for him just because he's playing next to Wembanyama. Wemby's always going to get MVP hype, and I don't think his second option is really going to contend for that award. But he looked so good in the finals as a 20-year-old in his rookie season that I kind of had to mention him if I'm going to be mentioning really young players. He's a guy that could, at the peak of his career, average like an efficient 25 a game. But I think as long as he's in San Antonio, it can't really happen. Cooper Flagg, though, he's a guy that could bring the MVP back to an American player. He's 6'9", huge forward, super athletic. I think will totally get you the stats required to win the voters over. He'll be a high-scoring guy as long as he's in Dallas because he'll pretty much be the number one option. He'll be an excellent defender. I mean, he's already proven that in his rookie season as a 19-year-old. That defense can only improve or at least stay the same from there. And then it looks like the offense does run through him a ton in Dallas. Could average around 5 or 6 assists a game. So if he's putting up a stat line of like 25, 10, and 5 with great defense and pretty good efficiency for a wing, all you'd really need is for the Mavericks to win 50 games, and you're looking at the next American MVP. So all these guys I mentioned have the possibility at winning an MVP. Let's talk about when it could happen. So next year, I think we're looking at a more open MVP race. The voters are probably going to be tired of giving Shea MVPs. He's already won back-to-back, and it's really hard to win 3 consecutive of those. Jokic could do it. I don't know if they're willing to give Jokic a 4th MVP. We'll see. If he's averaging a triple-double and the Nuggets win 60 games, it's going to be really hard for him to not win the award. Wemby could do it. I think it'll be hard to forget how bad the finals went for him, and that could cost him some love. We'll see, though. We'll see how the narrative around him goes. So if there's ever a season where Wemby doesn't play enough games and the voters are burnt out, maybe next season or the season after that, we could totally see one of these guys step up, have great team success, swoop in and take that MVP from guys that have been kind of hogging it the last couple of years. If it doesn't happen soon, we'll probably have to wait for Flagg, Harper, or Peterson to hit their true primes to see if maybe they could snatch the award. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Drop a comment who you think the next American MVP could be. So yeah, start a discourse in the comments. I love to respond to those. All right, that's it for me.